the gospel that the liturgy offers us for our meditation is about the multiplication of loaves and fish. The gospel begins by saying that at that time Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee, which is that of Tiberias, and a great multitude followed him, because they saw the miracles which he did on them that were diseased. And this is, we could see ourselves in this multitude today, because the church places us away from the world and invites us to come up to the mountain to be instructed by Jesus and to be given the true bread that comes down from heaven and which represents the life of the world. So it is always a privilege for us to be at Mass on Sunday. So that's a very good thing. Now, this multitude were following Jesus for their own reasons. And many people nowadays do the same thing. See, since television was invented, we have seen, time after time, what we call prosperity gospel from Protestant churches, preachers, and all of these things saying that if you have sufficient faith in God, then He's going to bless you, and you are supposed to have every blessing and all types of money and material things. See? Because that's what our faith in Christ is all about. Well, that is simply not true. That is not the case. Because, having lots of things to eat, or money, or 10 houses or so, doesn't really matter. What matters is that we stay in union with Christ. That we have a good conscience. That's the source of happiness. Nothing else. See, so we need to make sure that we are following Jesus for the right reasons. Simply because we want to be fed by Him, by Himself, by His body and blood, so that we may be able to vivify the world in which we live. Now, we have a very interesting week, the one we begin today, with the election, hopefully, of a good Pope. And hopefully it's not the last one, because if it is the last one, then we are in trouble. And that is not good for us. So hopefully it's not, the case. But then, the world seems to know everything. They speculate about everything as to, what is going on with the church. What were the reasons for the Pope to abdicate, and all of these things, when they don't know anything. The world do not know anything about God. They hate Christ, they persecuted Christ, they crucified Christ, and will continue to do so for the rest of the world. See, how many people know about religion? What they hear from television programs. They don't know anything. See? So we don't know what happened. We only know a few things. For example, the second Mass that Pope Benedict celebrated, in his homily, he said, "Pray that the shepherd may not be overcome by the wolves." Then later on, we don't know what happened. See, we know for sure that Satan has a lot to do in it. See, we have lowered down the church to the world so much that nowadays it is simply impossible to recognize, to distinguish those who believe in Christ and those who do not believe in Christ. So we have the same ways of speaking, the same ways of, modesty, same ways of eating and buying and selling. See, that is not the way it used to be with the first Christians at the beginning of the church. See? Now, when you turn on the television, any television show, they say, well, we need a pope that is open to the youth, who is willing to help the youth, a pope that is willing to modernize the church, to make the church more worldly. To what an extent, how far can we go? See? It's a horrible situation. And yet the world wants us to become more worldly than what we are already. See? That is not good. See? Now, that is why Jesus takes the people and they cross the Sea of Tiberias. The sea represents, in scriptural images, represents the world. The sea is the world with all these monsters and demons that inhabit the water. That's what the world is, that's what the sea is. So they cross the sea, and on the other side he feeds them. Then after this passage, he says, I think you are following me for the wrong reasons. Because what you need is not bread. You need truth. You need the true bread from heaven. And that is me, he says. So then a whole argument as to, the Pharisees saying, Moses gave us manna in the desert. What are you going to give us? See? So, the problem here is that we have become so entangled with the world, with the opinions of the world. See? We have assumed, we have made our own the ways of the world. See? And you know that between Christ and the world there is nothing in common at all. Nothing in common. And by the world I mean the corrupt and disordered life led by the world, the damnable spirit that reigns over the world, the perverse sentiments and inclinations which men of the world follow, and all of these things that the world so highly values and strives after, and that is honor, money, praise, pleasure, satisfaction, wealth, temporal comforts. See? So we should frequently reflect how the world always has been and always will be opposed to Christ. And from time to time, we need to take a step back and elevate ourselves with the virtue of faith above what we see and hear all the time. So that's the first thing. That's the first thing we need to keep into consideration. The second thing is that we are not supposed to love God because He gives us everything we have. See? We love God because He is worthy of being loved. He's lovable, in other words. And that's our primary purpose in this world. See? So people say, well, if you love God, you are going to have good health and a long life, you are going to have money and all of these things. That is true, but it needs a little correcting here and there. We don't say that to be healthy or wealthy is a bad thing, but it is not compulsory to be poor and sick if you are Catholic. See, it is just that earthly happiness is not guaranteed to those who follow Christ for two reasons. First, because this earthly phase of our lives is preparation for something better. So if we expect to have everything we want here in this world, we are wasting our time. We are simply passing through this world. That's why in the gospel, people were ready to crown Christ as king because he could give them free food. See? But he was about, as I said, to teach them that they should look for something else, something higher. So happiness has nothing to do with having lots to eat. You can eat 10 dinners a day and still be empty inside, hungry for something else. The second reason why God does not guarantee earthly happiness is because we get to where we are going, we need to get there without having too many things to touch. Otherwise, we don't advance that much. The more attached we are to the things of this world, the less we are seeking what we need to have. See? So we have to be like pilgrims, ready to move, anxious to press on to our final home. It is because of this tension, excuse me, it is because this tension that sometimes we have crosses and sometimes we have moments of happiness. So, sometimes God allows us to be happy, but in most of the cases, we are following Christ carrying our cross. So whichever side, whichever is bigger, joy or sorrow, it is still the same God, not less real. So we have to be patient with Him while He leads us to where we need to be. Otherwise, we will never have more than a superficial understanding of Him and never be able to love Him properly, let alone cope with life. So we are very fortunate, but we cannot guarantee happiness on every point at every time. Not yet, but later. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.